Patriots Nation continues to be excited for the Mike Vrabel era in Foxborough. But what's the rest of the NFL think about it? Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for the Patriots country. Reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. You can catch me where the skies are blue over on Blue Sky at MDABATENFL.bsky.social. And if you're looking to show some love to Locked On Patriots social media style, follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Pats fans, Mike Vrabel, the newly minted head coach of your New England Patriots, has officially been on the job for only a few days, but he is off to a fast start. All of you everydayers out there have been voicing opinions on Vrabel's hiring, and so far on the pod, we've broken it down from a Foxborough perspective. In other words, how Mike Vrabel is being viewed within the walls of Patriots Nation. But today, we're going to examine how Vrabel's hiring from a national perspective is being viewed. We're also going to discuss the Patriots' hopeful return to relevance. And is the pairing of Drake May with Josh McDaniels enough to bring the Pats back to respectability in short order? Lastly, it is conference championship weekend, folks. And I know this used to be the most wonderful time of the year in New England. Hasn't been that way for quite a while now. And there are games to be played. A couple of really good ones on tap for you this weekend. We're going to provide our thoughts on the Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And I keep saying we because, as you can see here, I am being joined by one of our very favorites here on Locked On Patriots, a proud member of the Locked On Patriots familia. You know her great work from FSN and the Almost Shameless podcast, which we're waiting for the return for. A great listen. I can't wait until it's back. She is a great person, a great friend, and absolutely honored to welcome her here today. Tanya Ray Fox is back on Locked On Patriots. Tanya, thank you for joining me today. Welcome back to Fox on Fridays.
Great to be back. Love this. It's so funny because I've been talking so much about the Patriots the last couple of weeks that usually when I come on here, I'm like, okay, this is my time to talk about the Patriots. Like this is when, we break it down with Mike. I'm like, I've been in it. So I feel really tapped back into the beat more than I have in like a while. Cause you bring me on as the national guy, just whatever, but it's really fun to be able to come on and talk with you specifically because you're the person I've talked with the Patriots, about the Patriots the most with, for the last few years. And now we're really getting into it. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And yes, thank you for the shout out of the podcast because it is officially coming back. We're building up the YouTube. We're doing the whole thing and you're going to be on it. Of course, you're going to be on it. So I'm excited to be back and having my coffee and talking football with you on a Friday morning.
Absolutely. And it's truly my honor. Since our last conversation here on Locked On Patriots, Foxborough has been, how shall we say, a hotbed for developments. And I think that's probably putting it lightly, especially when it comes to the leadership structure of this team. Gerard Mayo, no longer the head coach here in New England. Mike Vrabel has been hired as the 16th head coach in Patriots history. A little back to the future, Josh McDaniels is once again your offensive coordinator here in New England. Detroit Lions defensive line coach Terrell Williams bringing in a new, fresh perspective on defense. Some coaches, like special teams coordinator Jeremy Springer, is hanging around. He'll remain in place. Others, such as now former OC Alex Van Pelt, going to move on to what he believes to be greener pastures. I'm sure a lot of other coaches that coached alongside him here in New England will essentially follow suit. But after another 4-13 season, Tanya, you knew that Patriots Nation was going to be clamoring for some sort of change. I think to more bluntly put it and maybe more accurately put it, this fan base wants more wins. There's no other way to sugarcoat that. And from a large number of fans that I've spoken to here in Patriots Nation, especially over the past month, they're optimistic that Mike Vrabel is the guy that can deliver what they want. Vrabel and his new regime are being viewed very optimistically here in New England. So that's from a fan's perspective. That's from a Patriots fan's perspective. But those outside of New England may have a different take. And that is where your wisdom, your counsel, your insight is so valuable here to us on Locked On Patriots. You have your finger on the pulse of the national NFL takes. So, given your work with FS1, how do you view the hiring of Mike Vrabel with the New England Patriots, and how is it being viewed from a national lens?
It's generally, personally, I think it's a good hire. I think that when you have somebody like Vrabel with head coaching experience, who was a good, successful head coach, a playoff head coach, who has these kinds of ties to your organization, it's kind of a home run. And most people, I feel like, because it seemed so obvious, most people, even from the national angle, were like, yeah, okay, Vrabel's going to New England. It always felt like Vrabel was going to New England. It felt like originally Vrabel probably should have just gone to New England. And he is viewed favorably, if only because he is a fit for New England specifically, because he does have that sort of very similar mentality to the Patriots that we are recognized from the dynasty. There is an intensity, a defensive mindedness, a forward thinkingness that Vrabel brings to the coaching position that is familiar to people who watched the dynasty from afar, and understand kind of how everything functioned under Belichick. Vrabel ties things back into that a little bit, while also moving forward, bringing in the perspective of somebody who did coach elsewhere, right? Coached in Houston, then, went to the Titans and was a head coach there successfully for a while. So overall, good reviews. I think people are a little bit muted in terms of their over the topness. Like, he's not getting the Ben Johnson treatment because it's not that surprising, right? I mean, you look at a franchise like the Bears that is just cannot break through in this really tough division, and then they get this in division head coaching phenom. He's going to show up, whatever. That's the kind of stuff that's getting people really excited across, national NFL conversations. For people, the Vrabel to New England, I think, is going to be much more of an interesting conversation in terms of how things are going once we get into, probably training camp and preseason, when we start seeing exactly what they're doing, we will have seen who they've drafted by then, and what kind of different approaches they're taking from last year and the last couple of years of Belichick. And I think that's when people will really start to get a sense of, like, okay, are we looking at the Patriots actually returning to some sort of relevancy? But right now everybody's like, yeah, Vrabel, okay, we like it, well done. That's kind of the vibe.
Yeah, and I think that really is the vibe in New England as well. It's kind of nice to know that that's being shared across a lot of circles in NFL fandom. Look, I think Pats fans were psyched when Mike Vrabel walked through the door. They're looking at the red jacket. He's a Patriots Hall of Famer, and they know the work that he did here, his prolific career as a linebacker here in New England, and what he meant to those championship clubs early on in the dynasty. Everybody remembers the touchdown catches from Tom Brady, and the no nonsense attitude that he brought with him onto the field each and every time he put on shoulder pads here in New England. I think a lot of Patriots fans are hoping that translates into the coaching box. And I know there was some here in New England that were a little bit hesitant on Vrabel coming in, especially when you look at someone like a Ben Johnson, who's such an innovative play caller and such a mastermind of the modern NFL. You almost want to kind of pull from that tree a little bit. You want to try to get a little bit more of a fresh perspective. And some people are afraid that the Patriots hiring Vrabel may be a regression into the problems they had the last few years under Bill Belichick. Where I think this gets skewed tangentially, and I think you did put this very well, is the connection to guys like Josh McDaniels now coming back in and being his offensive coordinator. And this leads me quite nicely into maybe my final question for you on this subject from a national perspective. Several of my colleagues here on the Locked On Podcast Network that cover different teams or cover the NFL from a national level were surprised that Josh McDaniels was Mike Vrabel's choice. They believe that he wanted to go in a different direction, that Mike has overseen a different style on offense that maybe didn't necessarily fit Josh's strengths, that Drake May is more of a quarterback that's set for a wide zone type scheme rather than the Earhart Perkins that Josh has run so well up here for a number of years with guys like Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo, and even a couple of years ago, Mac Jones, making him a Pro Bowler. So is there that type of apprehension on a national level from what you've been hearing? Because I've had to talk some guys here on the network off the ledge a little bit about Josh coming in, letting them know that I believe he's going to be a different type of coach this time around, maybe even Vrabel. I think they're adapting their games.
Yeah, I think if Josh McDaniels had only ever OC'd for Tom Brady, there would be a lot more of that conversation happening nationally, because it would just be like, what do we really know about Josh McDaniels if the only quarterback he ever OC'd for was Tom Brady? I would totally understand that. That's not the case. Now, remember, outside of Mac Jones, getting Mac Jones to the playoffs, which again, similar, very dumbed down, but similar version of different offenses that he ran across the course of his time as an OC. And I say dumbed down in the best way possible. I mean, he did everything he could possibly do to get the most out of Mac Jones as a rookie. And I've told you before, looking back on what he did and how he called that offense, how he schemed that offense for Mac Jones, considering the weapons that they had and everything else, really incredible job. But prior to that, they were also, they also had Cam Newton for a season. And despite the fact that that is a forgotten season for a lot of people, Cam Newton did pretty well. And they were not running that same system. And they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with, players out and everything else, and under really difficult circumstances. I think Josh McDaniels has proven that he is adaptable in that way. And I actually think that Mike Vrabel, so generally, I think that the notion about this hiring, why Vrabel would go to McDaniels, is because he is not somebody who necessarily needs to prove himself on the offensive coordinator front. There is no, if coordinators made the Hall of Fame, Josh McDaniels would be in it. It'd be like him and Spags, right? So for somebody like Vrabel, why you've got all of these opportunities to place young, fresh, new ideas throughout your organization and through your personnel and through your coaching staff. You need somebody who can develop a young quarterback, who we've seen can work with a run first quarterback, which Drake is not, but he is very mobile. It's not, the general idea is just like, Josh McDaniels is a really good OC. Don't let him sit out there if you don't have somebody better. You don't want to you've already tried the inexperienced play caller with AVP. You've already tried the inexperienced head coach with Josh McDaniels. With Gerard Mayo. So people are generally, the vibe I'm getting from everybody, at least who I work with out here, is like, it's Josh. Yeah. Oh, not a great head coach. Excellent offensive coordinator. Let's not overthink this.
Right. Absolutely. So well said. And again, from what I've been hearing and from those that I've been speaking to that aren't connected to Patriots media, that do have connections to Josh, either during his time in Denver or during his time in Las Vegas, and even some that have ties to him when he was with the Rams for that year in St. Louis and then now have moved on to Los Angeles. Josh has spent the better part of the last year visiting college campuses. He's been visiting pro schemes. And he's been modernizing his game a little bit. And you and I both know Josh pretty well, Tanya. We know that he's not going to implement something on the field he's not comfortable coaching. So if he's bringing a scheme into Mike Vrabel's coaching room from day one, he must have read, absorbed, and now is attempting to regurgitate that onto the field and show how he can put his personal stamp on that. I think that's only good for the New England Patriots, and it's good for Josh as well to evolve, and especially someone like Drake May, who needs someone in that coach's room that he's going to be able to grow with. And I also think that may have been one of the big selling points for Josh McDaniels as well, is availability, security. I don't think a lot of teams are going to be knocking on Josh's door looking for head coaching interviews. I think those days have passed him by. So he knows now that he's going to be settling into an offensive coordinator position. What better than here in New England? He's kept his home. His family's comfortable here. He loves being in New England. Familiarity with the crafts, familiarity with Mike Vrabel, one of the top young quarterbacks in the league that he can mold into maybe being one of the top quarterbacks in the league in short order. Yeah, I think this is a win for Josh as well, not just for
It's
Mike Vrabel and the Patriots.
That's a great point because, Josh, just like many coaches in his position, he has an ego about his ability to do this job too. He wants to prove that being the offensive coordinator for a defensive coach gives you a lot of cred, which is why Josh McDaniels was given so many opportunities to move on and head coach, because even while, yes, he was offensive coordinator for Tom Brady, there were so many adjustments through the years, so many different things that he did throughout the years to cater to not just Tom Brady. There's a bunch of other players on the field, 11 to be specific. When you're,
Right.
there's 11 guys out there that he's scheming for and that he's play calling for. And this wasn't, we always remember the late years with Brady where he was just the pinnacle of what we remember, right? But Josh did a lot of work on that offense throughout the years that I think goes a little bit underappreciated. And, even going down to these, the 28-3 comeback, the play calling in that, the 2-point calls, all of the things that he had prepared. He was the most prepared offensive coordinator in the league. And he had no reason to have to be that prepared at any point.
Right.
Tom Brady could get you out of a jam, right? No matter what, Tom Brady could get you out of a jam. He didn't have to be to that level, and he always was. Why wouldn't you want that in an offensive coordinator? It's weird. How I feel about the fact that they keep just bringing back the hits after they said that they were really ready to move forward. But that is a narrative thing. That's a problem I have with the way the Crafts have handled this. That's not a problem I have with the personnel that's being hired. I actually think that these are good calls. I really do.
Yeah, exactly. When the hits are classics, it's easy to go back to them. And sometimes those classics are what helps drive you forward to a better piece of music in the future. So excellent analogy. I love it. And I think Patriots fans are going to love it as well. But Tanya, you and I both know that the success of Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, Drake May, the whole conglomerate here in New England right now is going to depend on how many wins these guys collect. And the first year is always going to be difficult, but Patriots fans are expecting this team to win more than they've won in years past, which means if they don't win at least 5 games this year, you're going to be hearing a lot of Patriots fans get very, very frustrated. How close are the New England Patriots to getting back to respectability now that guys like Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels and Terrell Williams are in the door to guide Drake May and Christian Gonzalez and Keon White and the young Patriots core that's going to move them forward? Tanya Ray Fox and I are going to debate that very subject when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, it's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns. And for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money, you can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Pats fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. Joining me to talk about the hiring of Mike Vrabel as the 16th head coach in New England Patriots history is my good friend Tanya Ray Fox of FS1. Tanya, in the previous segment, we talked a lot about Mike Vrabel's hiring and how the national media, how the national perspective is viewing Mike Vrabel as head coach of the New England Patriots. But this organization was once Super Bowl or bust when it came to expectations. Now they're pretty much just looking to get back to being a respectable football team. This team is more than just Mike Vrabel. It's more than just the coaching staff he's going to be bringing in. There is a lot to be said about how this team is going to perform on the field and the players they have in that locker room. And what we hear from a national perspective an awful lot is that this is a roster devoid of talent. I think locally, maybe they get a little bit more credit than they deserve at the national level because we see this talent on a day in, day out basis. But a lot of the national pundits are very impressed with Drake May. It's one player you consistently hear praised at the top of the heap when it comes to young quarterbacks, probably just a cut below guys like Jaden Daniels, who are having phenomenal seasons. And we're going to talk about Jaden in just a moment. But there's optimism with Drake. In your estimation, now with Mike Vrabel here, with Josh McDaniels ready to guide him, on the flip side as well, you've got Terrell Williams looking to guide this defense. Guys like Christian Gonzalez and Keon White, I think, is ready to thrive in a Terrell Williams type of defense. When he tells you he's looking for linemen that have a little violence in them, Keon White comes right to mind. So, in your estimation, first off, how close do you think the Patriots are to returning to respectability? And what are you hearing from a national level on that regard?
I think respectability is within reach this season. I don't think respectability has to come with a playoff return. I think respectability can come with how does Drake May look? How did they add to the roster on both offense and defense? Because the defense did regress this season from where it had been at before. I think there are things that can be done where everybody else across the NFL can say, okay, the Patriots are, first of all, they're kind of set up for success because we don't really know what's going on in New York. We don't really know what's going on with Miami. It's not like those are teams where it seems like the Patriots can't maybe get, leapfrog them, right? It's the Bills are the cream of the division, and then everything is sort of up for grabs right now. So, there's not really necessarily a sense that the Patriots are suddenly a poverty franchise, right? Or like they're not being talked about like they're the Jaguars.
Right.
They still have that cachet, and they have name recognition at these positions. And more than anything, the difference in tone about the Patriots right now between the last couple of years is the difference between Mac Jones and Drake May. Mac Jones did not inspire anything in people. Not even really hatred. It was just apathy. And I'm talking about the national perspective of the Patriots, not, this isn't quarterback analysis, right? It's just, he just didn't really do it for anybody. Drake May is really likable. He's dynamic. He made incredible plays. As you pointed out, he is in this crazy crop of rookie quarterbacks that are genuinely really exciting. And it would be very easy for a quarterback in his situation with 4 wins to have kind of gotten lost in the sauce, right? Like Jaden Daniels is having the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. Bo Nix made the playoffs. Caleb Williams, really underrated performance on the Bears this year, as far as I'm concerned. These guys and Michael Penix obviously has less experience, whatever, but there are no bums as of right now out of that draft class. So the fact that Drake May inspires such enthusiasm from people outside of New England is a sign that I think they're already returning to a place where they can reach respectability. Does respectability have to be 500? Does it have to be a playoff? That's up to how they get there, right? It's up to how they win and lose games. It's up to how they build their roster. Those are things that are going to come in the next, 6-7 months, where we're watching this team kind of actually, because as you said, we kind of like have a lost year now, right? Not that those players are lost. There are a lot of players that matter, and the Keon Whites and the Christian Gonzalez's and the people who they've really invested in that are going to carry this team forward will get their opportunity to be more recognized on a national stage if they can win games and win meaningful games against good teams. So, respectability, I guess, is in the eye of the beholder, Mike. AFC is very competitive, right? I mean, the AFC North is an extremely competitive division right in your conference. And that's not to even mention the fact that you have to play 2 games against the Bills every year. The Chiefs and the Chargers are, the Chargers and the Broncos are knocking on the door of real regular relevance year in, year out. They have a lot of work to do.
Right.
But I think that they can get to a place where we are excited about the future, even if they are not playoff ready this season, which would be a huge leap. Doesn't mean it can't happen. We've seen it happen, but it doesn't need to happen for people to start taking the Patriots seriously again.
Absolutely. Playing fundamentally sound football automatically makes you a better team. And if you're a better team, you're going to come out on the side of those close games that they've lost the last couple of years. And look, I don't want to hop on and just make it seem like this team was fundamentally unsound under Gerard Mayo last season. We all know they were. But the last couple of years under Bill Belichick weren't exactly the same crisp, clean New England Patriots team that we're used to seeing. This team was abhorrent on special teams, and that's something that is a cardinal sin of a Belichick coach team. You wonder how that happened and how that came to fruition. And even on offense and defense, this team just didn't have the same punch, the same fight in them. Having that improved and having that renewed vigor in this locker room, as you said, may be enough to propel the Patriots toward a greater amount of wins. So Tanya, it's always tough to transition from the Patriots to the other teams that are currently playing in January. This used to be Game of Thrones time up here in New England. Winter is coming, and so are the Patriots. In fact, a couple of years ago, I wrote an article for SI with that exact title, How the Times Have Changed. That still doesn't mean there are not 2 good games on tap this weekend to keep your sharp eye on, folks. Tanya and I are going to break down the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game and what to expect, and a surprising connection to your New England Patriots on the NFC side of things. Yeah, stick around, folks. You are not going to want to miss a second of the action as we wrap things up here on today's episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listen up, Locked On listeners. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Some of my favorite memories have been attending exciting playoff games or concerts. The energy and excitement are unforgettable. Well, now, GameTime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, GameTime Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. So don't delay, do it today. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. Locked On listeners, growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets that. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using data you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests to the connections you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high-quality candidates. Hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Don't delay, do it today to post your job for free. linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Terms and conditions apply. Pats fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. And joining me to discuss all things Mike Vrabel and your New England Patriots from a national perspective is my good friend, Tanya Ray Fox of FS1. Tanya, the Patriots have played a large role in both our lives. I don't think it's any shock to anyone viewing this podcast or listening to us today. We've been fans of this team. We've covered them as members of the media. in that regard, it's been a double-edged sword covering this team. But when you look at conference championship weekend, and for Patriots fans, this is a tough time of year now. It used to be known in these parts as the Tom Brady Invitational, or at least the AFC Championship game was. Who's Tom going to invite to try to take his spot in the Super Bowl? That hasn't happened since 2018 here. Those days are long gone in New England, and it's not looking like a return to that level is going to happen this year in Mike Vrabel's first season. Again, folks, it could happen. It's just not likely. So in that vein, even though it's not the same here in New England, there are two great games on tap for us to cover this weekend and for us to talk about. This Sunday, folks, 3 p.m. on Fox, the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles will hook up for the NFC crown. That matchup takes place in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field. The second game at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, the Buffalo Bills travel to Arrowhead Stadium and try to take away the crown from the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Tanya, two great games, four great teams, four passionate fan bases. You can't ask for more when it comes to a national perspective for the NFL this weekend. So let's start with the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. I've always said to be the man, you got to beat the man, to quote the great Ric Flair. So far, the Buffalo Bills are the only team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season, but postseason is a completely different animal. We both know that. So when you look at this game from a Bills perspective, from a Chiefs perspective, what are you looking for personally, and how do you believe this one's going to shake out at Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday evening?
I think what I liked that I saw from Buffalo last week against the Ravens was the physicality defensively. They were really physical with them in the snow. And this is a Chiefs team, and we've seen this with the Patriots before too. So I don't ever underestimate what a team like the Chiefs can do in any game. They are not good offensively. They are not where they used to be offensively. What they have going for them is Patrick Mahomes being able to sort of freelance, the plays break down and he makes something happen. Usually he's making something happen to Travis Kelce. When Tom Brady, on whatever team he was on, was beating the Chiefs, it was because the defense was almost always taking away either Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. They don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. There's a very easy way to beat the Chiefs this year. If Patrick Mahomes can't go to Travis Kelce and you're making him pay for scrambling, and their defense is doing what their defense has done all year and just, continues to, do what they do, you can only do so much against Josh Allen in the red zone. We don't really talk about him the way that we should in terms of how difficult he is to stop in the red zone. And, the way Cam Newton used to be, the way that Jalen Hurts and the tush push is, right? Like that's kind of where Josh Allen's at. But I think it's hard to bring that level of energy when you're not in Buffalo in the snow in front of your own fans. And that's where they need to get over the hump, is bringing that same level of physicality and energy, because that is a Chiefs offense that is just is incredibly flawed. Right. They have not evolved scheme wise or play calling wise. A lot of asking Patrick Mahomes and whoever the receiver of the day is, and in the playoffs it's always Travis, to figure it out. And they're winning games with 21, 23 points. That's a beatable team. And it's to me, the formula is just not that hard. It's just about executing it. And that's where we're going to see if the Bills are at the level where they're ready to execute, at Arrowhead on game day, the way that we know they can. Because if you're looking at it objectively, the Bills are the hotter team. They are the better team with the quarterback who's playing better. That's just a fact.
Yeah, very good point. And again, it comes back to playing to your opponent's weakness and playing to your own strength. That's going to be the key for Buffalo this weekend. My worry, if I'm a Bills fan, is the same worry that people would have when the Patriots used to come into town for the AFC Championship game. If you keep it close and you give Tom Brady a chance to win the game, he's going to win that game. Patrick Mahomes will figure out a way to give his team the opportunity to win that game. and the defense has the chance to shut down the Buffalo Bills. Where the Bills can really put the Chiefs on their heels is if they find a way to neutralize that Steve Spagnuolo run defense, because this Buffalo Bills team can run the football effectively. That means James Cook. That means Taron Johnson. That means Ray Davis. You've got to get them involved right away. Lean on that Kansas City defensive front seven. Don't give them an opportunity to get comfortable. If they do that, that Buffalo Bills team could potentially put the champions on their heels by winning the run game battle right off the bat. That means first quarter, get points. If they're not winning those battles, you're going to give the Chiefs a chance to hang around. And as long as you have that, yeah, I think they'll find a way to pull this one out.
Yeah, the Chiefs defense is they're really good. To me, watching the Chiefs defense has been the best part of watching the Chiefs this year. And again, I have all the respect in the world for Steve Spagnuolo and what he can do year in, year out. And he's a matchup kind of coach. He knows exactly how to prepare and scheme for these teams. And you're completely right that long, extended, brutal drives, defending the run over and over and over again, that's tiring those guys out is difficult enough. They've got a lot of talent on that defense. Being able to do that and then taking it to them defensively on the other end of the ball, really making it physical, making Patrick Mahomes fight through a lot of physicality. Those two things that's the best you can do. That's the best you can do. And like you said, if you can't put up points, if you can't get yourself out of the one score lead or whatever that over Patrick Mahomes while you're at the back end of that fourth quarter, 90% of the time you're screwed. So that's where we're all watching, and we know the feeling and we know what's going to happen because we did it for a long time with the Patriots, and the same thing happens. You better have 9 points on them. You better have 9 points on them by the time that 3 minutes in the fourth quarter is rolling around, right? So It'll be really fascinating. It's going to be a really, really fun game. I'm personally not quite sick of the Bills Chiefs thing yet. If the Bills lose this game, I'm going to officially I'm out. I'm done with you guys. I'm over this, but right now I'm still excited about it because of the season that Josh Allen has had. They have one more shot to win me over.
And again, if you're talking keys to the game, folks, and you're talking ways to be able to do that for the Kansas City Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo, it's got to be left side, strong side when it comes to that defense, because Buffalo is going to try to run it to the right. James Cook is very good when he runs to the right. He averages 5.6 yards when running to the right per carry. That, to me, is where this Buffalo team can make some headway, and they can do it. They got a couple of great linemen to run behind. Spencer Brown, Alec Anderson are as good of a combination as you'll find in the league at being able to block on that right side and neutralize the left side of that defense. I can't wait to watch this one on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to it. On the flip side, Tanya, we're looking at a team in the Philadelphia Eagles that comes in with an aggressive defense. They come in with arguably the best running back in the league in Saquon Barkley. Some may say that's inarguable, but Saquon's been incredible this year. Jalen Hurts has had an up and down playoffs, but made plays when he needs to. On the flip side, this Washington Commanders is the feel-good story of the NFL. Jaden Daniels playing well, getting contributions from offense and defense, really playing at a high level. How do you see the NFC Championship shaking out this weekend at Lincoln Financial Field in the city of brotherly love?
I think this game is actually so much harder to predict how it's going to go. There's a blueprint for Bills Chiefs. We've seen it 1,000 times. Commanders Eagles, and I've said this 4 million times, and I'll say it 4 million times again. You're talking about division rivals. Division rivalry games are very hard to predict. These teams know each other. Their fan bases know each other. There is an animosity between these teams, whatever. That's a different story. If you go back over the history of division rival games, you will see stuff that you're like, how did that game go? That team was 2-14. How did they beat this team? So I love that aspect of it. And on top of that, the Commanders are incredibly hard to prepare for because Jaden Daniels is an anomaly. There's not really one thing he does game to game that's like specifically the thing that you can attack. Being this unknown enigma rookie, a little bit raw, a little bit difficult to predict, is hard to defend. Does it make him vulnerable to, turnovers or mistakes or mental lapses? Yeah, it does. It also makes you vulnerable to him popping off because and that's why when we have seen certain rookies make runs like this, it's usually because of that. He's not afraid of anything. He doesn't get rattled. And as good as the Eagles defense is, as physical as they are, as fast as they are, as talented as they are, um, I don't know that they've seen a situation like this when they've been in the NFC Championship game where you're going to kind of have to prepare for anything that it's going to be halftime adjustments really when it comes to what they're doing out there. And we know that Jaden Daniels has made a habit of figuring stuff out in the fourth quarter and just making big plays. As far as I can tell, the best thing that you can ever do against any quarterback, but especially a rookie or a young quarterback, is to hit them with pressure early and often, immediately. Get to him as soon as humanly possible before he can roll out, before anything can happen. Be in his face, because as on the flip side, you've got really composed, experienced players in Jalen Hurts, in Saquon Barkley, in AJ Brown. So like to me, I don't care what the Commanders defense brings to the Eagles offense. They know exactly what they need to do to win that game. And the Commanders know exactly what the Eagles need to do to win that game. And they absolutely I love what the Commanders have done this season. The Eagles should win that game. That is, to me, like it's very obvious to me that the Commanders are a team that has succeeded past their ceiling, right? Past what we thought their ceiling was. And I love that. This does not mean that the Commanders are not going to make the Super Bowl. This does not mean that I think that cannot happen. It can absolutely happen. And we've seen runs like this. It reminds me a little bit of the weird Eagles run to the Super Bowl with Nick Foles in 2017, where you're just like, there's just a lot going on here. I don't like suddenly they're just, Carson Wentz goes down, Nick Foles comes in. He's just doing whatever he wants. He just sort of it was hard to stop them. And so I'm not saying that, but I think the Eagles, with as good of defensive personnel and play calling as they've had all year, I would be surprised if I didn't see them really like honing in on pressuring Jaden Daniels early and often. He's an accurate passer and he's a mobile guy. It's almost shocking how good he is in every aspect of the game at this point of his career. He looks so much like Lamar Jackson to me. This like very like raw version of what we're seeing of Lamar Jackson now, who I believe is the most talented quarterback in the NFL. And it's actually shocking how quickly he has ascended to that position. And even when you were talking about Tom Brady, when you're talking about Patrick Mahomes, when they're in your face and you don't have time, even when you're able to escape, even when you're rolling out or whatever else, things are breaking down. And to me, that's your best shot here, because the Commanders are going to live and die by Jaden Daniels. The Eagles don't have to live and die by Jalen Hurts because they have Saquon Barkley, their offensive line and all that. And and both defenses are great. Don't get me wrong, both defenses, but I mean, the Eagles are on a next tier. And so as much as I love the Commanders, this is the Eagles' game to win. I think they should win it. And I am terrified to say I think that they will win it, because Jaden Daniels and the Commanders are a really fun, hard team to predict. But if I'm going to say, if I'm going to be honest with myself, the Eagles should be in the Super Bowl.
I think that's a common assessment, and I also believe that it's the correct assessment, because when you look at the Eagles and you look at the experience that they have in playing in these types of games, it counts for something. Jalen Carter proved last week that a big defensive play can stop an offensive juggernaut, and that's exactly what you saw from the Philadelphia Eagles when they needed a stop and they needed a big play made. That defense came up and made it. That's not to say that the Commanders can't do it. They have the personnel to be able to do it as well, but you also run the risk of alienating the big play ability that Eagles offense has. You mentioned Jalen Hurts, and he's capable of pulling off those big plays, but so is Saquon Barkley. We've seen him run for 70-plus yards almost routinely this year, and that is something that is very difficult for a running back to do, and he's done it into the playoffs. Then you look at the receiving core and guys like A.J. Brown who are capable of making big plays on their own. It just gives the Philadelphia Eagles so much ammunition to be able to complete their mission here. It's going to be a tough matchup for the Washington Commanders. But here's how the Washington Commanders could potentially win this game, and that's winning the turnover battle. One of the most interesting stats I pulled in anticipation of our conversation today was the fact that in these playoffs right now, all the teams that have won matchups have won the turnover battle. It's actually the first time that's happened in 15 years, which is very surprising to me. You
Yeah.
would
I
think
know
that
it seems so obvious,
you would
right?
think
But
that when
yeah.
the turnover battle is there, but the teams that go on to win this turnover battle have been able to hold their leads and been able to hold on to the momentum in this game. Now, Washington and Philadelphia have been really good in this area. There are two of only four teams in playoff history with at least 6 takeaways and no turnovers in their first 2 games of the postseason. I alluded to earlier that there was a connection here to the Patriots, and I'm going to make it right now. The only other teams that can share that sentiment, that can share that distinction, the 1998 Denver Broncos and the 2004 New England Patriots. Both of those teams went on to win the Super Bowl. So whichever team's defense can generate that first critical postseason turnover, I think is going to emerge victorious, and they may end up punching their ticket to New Orleans. I know the Commanders can go ahead and do that. They have the personnel to do it. I think the Eagles' experience is the deciding factor here. So I'm going to say the Eagles take this. It's going to be in a close one, but I do believe that their personnel is just too experienced and maybe even a little bit too nuanced when it comes to talent on the field for them not to win this game.
Now, you said the 98 Broncos and the 2004 Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that they had Terrell Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And did the Patriots have Corey Dillon in 2004?
They did.
Okay. So I like the idea of the team with the better running back.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps, a solid running back
Mm-hmm.
could really. So I'm trying to do it. I'm like, okay, how can I tie this into one of the teams of the Eagles? I already think the Eagles are set up for success, but it genuinely does help when you can run the ball effectively and explosively to not turn the ball over. It's just easier to not fumble than to not throw a pick. Especially depending on the weather conditions, obviously.
Right.
But
That's
this game's in Philly. These teams are so close to each other geographically. They can both play in the weather and everything else. But when you can put the ball in a very good running back, in this case, a Hall of Fame running back's hands, that also helps. That helps your case there. So. Okay, interesting. Okay, I love this. I love a good deep cut stat. I'm such a nerd about that stuff. I love when you bring it up, so I appreciate that. I'm gonna put that in my back pocket.
I figured you would, and I thought that was a good way to kind of bring the Pats back into this whole discussion,
which we love to do.
We love to do, absolutely, because again, it is a little bittersweet for Patriots fans to be watching conference championships and not see the Pats, but it's going to be interesting to see, can the Bills pull this out? I think they're going to be able to very slightly. I'm looking at a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl here, folks. But again, the defending champions have more than earned the right to get the benefit of the doubt from anyone on a national stage, on a local stage. Until those guys are overturned, it's going to be very, very difficult to pick against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tanya, before I let you go, please let everyone know here on the pod where they can reach out to you, interact with you, and what you got on the horizon when it comes to the great pen, the great voice, and the great coverage of the NFL from Tanya Ray Fox.
You can find me everywhere on all social media platforms, literally all of them. If they exist, I'm there. I'm mostly these days on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky / Twitter. Those are kind of the places that you can find me most often. And then subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then that's where also you'll be able to find the video version of Almost Shameless upon the relaunch. And then Almost Shameless will be available wherever you listen to podcasts. So it's already, the feed exists. So if you want to go follow it now so that you're ready for when the new podcast, the new episodes drop, you can do that. And you can listen to old stuff if you want to see if I knew what I was talking about before, which I did. No need to pull any episodes down. I always was right. You know what I mean? So go ahead and check that out if you want to live through some Patriots nostalgia. And yeah, you can find me at Tanya Ray Fox everywhere.
The tip of the cap, my friend. Thank you for joining me here today. Folks, thank all of you for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. On behalf of my good friend Tanya Ray Fox of FS1, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change you wish to see in the world. Enjoy Conference Championship Sunday, folks. We'll see you back here again on Monday on Locked on Patriots.